You're standing in the dim, flickering light of Greenwich Palace, July 1588 AD. The air is heavy, a suffocating blend of unwashed bodies, damp stone, and overpowering floral perfumes that fail to conceal the rot beneath. Beyond the carved oak doors, Queen Elizabeth I commands her court, her voice sharp, her presence radiant in golden silks and pearls. But as you edge closer, a sour, metallic stench cuts through, like rancid meat left in the sun, mixed with the musk of long unwashed skin. The Virgin Queen, Gloriana, sits on a throne, her face a ghostly mask of white lead paint, her smile revealing teeth blackened by decay. Courtiers bow low, not just in reverence, but to escape the odor that clings to her like a shadow. This is the queen who will soon outwit the Spanish Armada, whose 45-year reign will shape England's golden age. Yet beneath the regal veneer lies a secret world of revolting hygiene habits that would make your stomach churn. Before we unravel these shocking truths, if you're fascinated by history's hidden corners, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that peel back the past. Comment below where you're watching from. It's incredible to connect across the globe, united by curiosity about the gritty realities of history. Elizabeth's hygiene was a product of her time, a world where bathing was feared, medicine was poison, and even royalty lived in filth unthinkable today. But for Elizabeth, these habits weren't just quirks. They changed her life, her court, and her legacy forever. Let's step into her world, starting with her rare and revolting bath ritual. Elizabeth I was considered a hygiene pioneer in her day, bathing once every 3 months, whether she needed it or not. Her courtiers recorded her saying with a hint of pride, "I bathe once every 3 months, whether I need it or not." By 16th century standards, this was revolutionary. Most of her subjects avoided baths for years, believing water invited disease and evil spirits. But Elizabeth's rare baths were far from cleansing. They were spectacles of filth. Servants dragged massive copper tubs into her chambers, filling them with murky Thames water, thick with London sewage, dead fish, and tannery runoff. The soap? A caustic sludge of rancid pig fat, fireplace ash, and lye that could strip skin raw. It wasn't just ineffective, it was torture. Between these quarterly rituals, Elizabeth's body became a canvas of grime. Sweat, dead skin, and oils built up, mingling with the heavy perfumes she applied to mask the stench. By week 10, her approach was heralded not by trumpets, but by a wave of odor so potent that courtiers clutched scented pomanders to their noses. A 1580 court record tells of a Spanish envoy who, during an audience, held a clove-stuffed orange to his face, later writing, "The Queen's presence was a trial of endurance, her scent overwhelming all courtesy." These baths, meant to refresh, only deepened her reliance on toxic cosmetics and perfumes to hide the growing problem, setting a vicious cycle in motion that would haunt her health and courtly life. Elizabeth's teeth were a scandal whispered across Europe's courts. By her late 30s, her once pearly smile had turned a sickly brown, darkening to jet black by her 40s. Her love for sugar, rarer than gold in her era, was the culprit. She devoured marzipan, candied violets, and sugared wines, letting crystals linger on her teeth menu for hours. Dental care? Non-existent. No brushing, no flossing. Only occasional rinses with sugary wine or rose water that worsened the decay. Her teeth crumbled, leaving blackened fragments on her lips, and the pain was so severe she sometimes survived on broth for days. A 1587 report from a French diplomat noted, "Her Majesty's breath carries the stench of a grave, forcing one to stand at a distance." Courtiers winced as she spoke, her breath described as a battlefield's rot. Doctors prescribed vile remedies, urine rinses, hot irons to burn out corruption, but nothing stopped the decay. This dental disaster not only tormented Elizabeth, but strained diplomatic relations, as ambassadors struggled to endure her presence, forever altering how she was perceived on the world stage. Elizabeth's iconic red hair was a myth after her 30s, replaced by wigs that became breeding grounds for filth. Her natural hair fell out from lead-based cosmetics and toxic scalp treatments, leaving her with oozing sores and lesions. The wigs, crafted from peasant women's lice-ridden hair, were sewn onto silk bases with rusting pins that dug into her inflamed scalp. Never washed, only dusted with powders, they absorbed months of sweat, oil, and London's grime. Lice thrived in the damp, unventilated mess, and ladies-in-waiting spent hours picking them out, only for the pest to return. A 1592 Venetian ambassador wrote, "The Queen's wig carries a scent that lingers like a fog, forcing one to breathe shallowly." Elizabeth's vanity blinded her to the truth. Her glorious locks were a decaying fiction. The constant irritation and infections worsened her health, while the wig stench alienated her court, reshaping her daily interactions and fueling whispers of her declining vitality. Elizabeth's ghostly white complexion, her signature look, was a death sentence painted on her face. Every morning, she applied ceruse, a toxic blend of white lead and vinegar, that burned her skin and seeped into her bloodstream. Mined from Cornish pits where workers dropped dead from exposure, the lead powder coated her chambers like dust, while the vinegar's acid ate away at her flesh. The drying process was agony, forcing her to sit motionless for an hour as it hardened into a cracking mask. She never fully removed it, layering fresh poison over old, scraping off flakes with ivory combs that left bloody gashes. By her 50s, lead poisoning caused hair loss, memory lapses, and crippling fatigue. Her lips, painted with rancid beetle-derived cochineal, added a putrid stench to her breath. A 1595 courtier's letter described her as a painted statue, her face a mask hiding sores and decay. This toxic ritual not only ravaged her body, but eroded her confidence, forcing her to hide behind an ever thicker facade that isolated her from those closest to her. Elizabeth's wardrobe of over 3,000 gowns was a dazzling symbol of power, but each was a walking archive of filth. These masterpieces of silk, velvet, and jewels, worth more than most homes, were never washed. Their intricate layers and delicate embroidery couldn't withstand cleaning, so they were merely aired or brushed, trapping months of sweat, body odor, and spilled wine. Her corsets lay so tightly they bruised her ribs, bred bacteria in their unwashed linen folds. Light-colored gowns, white, silver, gold, showed every stain, yet Elizabeth wore them for weeks, their weights sometimes reaching 50 pounds, creating a sweaty greenhouse effect. A 1589 Dutch envoy noted, "Her Majesty's gown carried a scent so foul, it lingered in the hall long after she departed." Stockings, rarely changed, clung to feet riddled with fungal infections, while her shoes warped from sweat and odor. Her refusal to part with favorite gowns deepened the filth, turning her regal attire into a health hazard that repelled courtiers and reshaped her public appearances. Elizabeth's diet was a royal feast of disaster, fueling hygiene horrors that humiliated her at court. Her meals, hours-long banquets of roasted swan, venison, and sugary confections, were laden with heavy spices to mask spoilage in a pre-refrigeration age. She wolfed down food between diplomatic duties, barely chewing, which triggered crippling bloating and gas. Her tight corsets worsened the agony, pressing on her stomach until she loosened them in secret, a scandalous breach of decorum. A 1590 courtier's diary recounts, "The Queen's discomfort was audible, her scent forcing us to turn away." Mercury-based medicines, prescribed for rumored ailments, caused violent diarrhea, while sugary treats fed her dental decay and gut imbalance. These digestive woes forced Elizabeth to cancel appearances, hiding behind illness to mask her embarrassment. The constant distress sapped her energy and strained her regal composure, reshaping her public life as she battled to maintain her divine image amidst mortal frailties. Beyond her rotting teeth, Elizabeth's mouth was a festering nightmare that tainted every word she spoke. Her tongue, coated in a thick yellowish film of bacteria and food debris, gave her breath a rancid edge, described by a 1593 ambassador as a stench worse than spoiled meat. Her gums bled constantly, mixing with saliva to create a metallic taste she tried to mask with sugary wines, only feeding the decay. Swollen and infected, her gums made chewing torturous, and her throat, inflamed from cascading bacteria, caused chronic pain and difficulty speaking. She chewed mint and rosemary, but their fleeting freshness was no match for the rot. Rinses of vinegar and honey only worsened the bacterial feast. This oral catastrophe forced Elizabeth to limit public speeches, relying on courtiers to relay her words, diminishing her commanding presence. The constant discomfort and shame reshaped her interactions as she hid her mouth behind fans, forever altering her once vibrant oratory power. In a desperate bid to mask her mounting hygiene horrors, Elizabeth drenched herself in perfumes, creating a stench worse than the one she aimed to hide. Her favorite, civet musk from African cat glands, was a costly luxury, but when mixed with months of unwashed sweat and decay, it turned into a nauseating cloud. Servants applied layers of scented oils and powders daily, using brushes to dab rancid rose and amber concoctions onto her skin and gowns. These perfumes, made from unstable animal and plant extracts, soured in the heat, blending with her body odor to form a smell courtiers likened to a rotting orchard. A 1597 record notes a banquet where guests opened windows despite winter's chill to escape the queen's overpowering aura. Elizabeth's obsession with fragrance, meant to preserve her divine image, backfired, intensifying her isolation as courtiers kept their distance, reshaping her court's dynamics and undermining her regal authority. As Elizabeth entered her final years, her hygiene horrors reached a grotesque peak, transforming the once glorious queen into a living relic of decay. Her skin, ravaged by decades of lead poisoning, was a patchwork of oozing sores and scars, no longer concealed by cracking ceruse. Her scalp, bald and scarred, bled under heavy wigs, while her few remaining teeth hung loose, forcing her to sip broths in pain. Her body odor, a mix of unwashed flesh, infected wounds, and rancid perfumes, was so potent that a 1602 courtier wrote, "The queen's presence is a miasma, felt before seen." Lead poisoning clouded her mind, sparking rages and memory lapses that baffled her court. When she died on March 24th, 1603, at Richmond Palace, servants found a body unrecognizable from her portraits, her chambers reeking for months. Elizabeth's hygiene failures didn't just torment her, they reshaped her reign, isolating her from allies and tarnishing her divine image. Yet, as you stand in Greenwich Palace's now silent halls, the wind whispers of a queen whose victories came at a cost, her crown heavy with the weight of her own neglected flesh.